Crash Tag Team Racing is a very interesting Crash game. It was released in 2005 and would be the first Crash game developed by Radical Entertainment, who would later go on to develop the Crash Bandicoot Mutant games. While all of Radical's Crash games had DS versions, there was one game that didn't, and that was indeed Crash Tag Team Racing. So in this much shorter video, I'm going to be talking about the cancelled DS port of Crash Tag Team Racing. And before anyone asks in the comments, yes, I do intend to make a Tag Team Racing beta video sometime in the future. I just thought that the DS port of Tag Team Racing deserved the video in its own right. So here we go. This is the cancelled DS port of Crash Tag Team Racing. So back when Tag Team Racing was announced, back when it was referred to as Crash Clash Racing, the DS version was actually the only port of the game that was to be announced at the time. Sadly though, there were no screenshots released at the time of its announcement. While the PSP version of Tag Team Racing is just a port of the console versions, the DS version was meant to be a remake of the console version made from the ground up. This was mainly due to the fact that the DS was not powerful enough to have the console version be ported to it, so it was just better off making it resemble the console version as closely as possible. This would have been way different, as the other two DS games based off of Radical's Crash games were actually just different games in their own right, rather than just being remakes of their console counterparts. The developers Sensory Sweep were given the task of making this port, being sent the character models for the console port. Radical tasked Sensory Sweep with reducing their polygon count. However, this resulted in the models losing a lot of detail and being really blocky. As a result, the lead artist of the project just decided to remake the models from the ground up, which actually ended up being the better choice at the end. While the game's development was going smoothly for about 9 to 10 months with only 2 months left to complete the game, the publisher told Sensory Sweep to can the project, with the official explanation being that the game would have been overshadowed by the success of Mario Kart DS. However, I personally don't buy that explanation. Why? Because, well, I think the idea of canceling a project out of fear of it being overshadowed by a competitor is a really lame and silly reason to cancel a game. Regardless if that explanation is true or not, I honestly believe that a lot more went on behind the scenes at Sensory Sweep. And I was right because, well, what have I got? Attached to the Crash Mania forum, which is the main source of information I'm getting for this video, is a blog post from an ex-Sensory Sweep employee who had very interesting things to say about the company. I just want to state that all of this stuff is alleged, so everything I say is up for you to judge on its validity. According to the forum, Sensory Sweep had a very toxic work environment within the studio. Company founder Dave Rushton was allegedly a terrible manager. According to an anonymous ex-Sensory Sweep developer, Dave Rushton seemed to be a positive guy. When I first met him in person, he had wonderful stories to tell me about how great Sensory Sweep was doing. I got hired when there was around 150 or so employees, and it seemed to be going up. After Dave had hired me, I knew within a couple of days that everything he had told me had been greatly exaggerated. Dave was a businessman, pure and simple. It was after I discovered this that I realized that meant he was purposefully making things seem better than they were. We would have weekly meetings where Dave would address everyone and tell them all the good things that were headed our way, specifically a project that would quote-unquote save the company with its long development time and huge payments that would cover payroll and then some. It gave some of us hope, and we went back to our desks not receiving paychecks with the idea that we would be bailed out by this new game. This was around July. Those employees filed a lawsuit against Dave because he was not paying them. The developer goes on to talk about how this was addressed in a meeting with Dave, where he had stated that the investigations were all just ridiculous lies. Dave had told the people that stayed that they would be rewarded handsomely for staying loyal to him by not leaving. They were to receive their back pay money first before all those quote-unquote bastards that sued them for what they owed. The developer would go on to state that they kept working for Sensory Sweep from October to December without pay. When January comes around, Rushton is still hyping the huge project that will save the company. But the investors on the project are, and I'm not joking here, attending the Obama inauguration so they can't sign the papers until they get back. Then health insurance is threatened to be taken away by the health insurance company. Dave has not paid them, so obviously they won't give us coverage unless he pays. When confronted by his employees, Rushton reassured them that he did indeed pay the insurance companies, so the employees just continued to go to the doctors and stuff like nothing was wrong. However, this couldn't be further from the truth. He lied again. This time it cost numerous employees money out their own pockets, because once the doctors and dentists billed the insurance companies, the companies declined to pay because Dave didn't pay them the money that was deducted out of our checks. So because Dave lied again, it cost people thousands of dollars they didn't already have. About 4 days after he said that things would be fine, the HR told us that it was canceled. This was just one of the many posts on a blog that I will link in the description. If you want to read more of the manipulative and outright evil acts of this Dave Rushton guy, go check it out. Because there's actually a lot more stuff that I didn't even mention in this video. After all the cases of overall mismanagement of the company, Sensory Sweep would close down in 2009, and Dave Rushton would be arrested in 2010 for tax evasion in addition to other alleged unlawful acts. What have I got? Knowing all this background information regarding Sensory Sweep, it's no wonder why the DS port of Tag Team Racing never came out. The game was being developed by a studio whose manager only cared about making good money rather than good games. I honestly do think it's a damn shame this port never came to see the light of day. As someone who played the Nintendo DS a lot during his childhood, I would have absolutely loved to have played this version of the game. Say what you will about Tag Team Racing, but I personally think it works better as a handheld game rather than a console game, and I think a port of this game for the DS would have been awesome. Sadly, however, we live in a universe where that does not exist. However, I wouldn't lose all hope just yet. Given the fact that the game had about 9 to 10 months of development before being canned, it's likely that there are builds out there somewhere. However, they haven't been made public yet for reasons. But you never know what the Crash community can be capable of. We recently just got not only a build, but the entire source code for WayForward's pitch for the DS version of the cancelled Crash Landed game from 2010. If Crash fans are capable of recovering lost builds in even a cancelled game, I don't doubt that the same can be done for this particular version of Tag Team Racing. However, the odds of that happening is very 50-50, as we don't know who has the builds and if they even still exist anymore. So, only time will tell if we ever get to see this version of Tag Team Racing one day. With that said, I am the Loweton17. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to the End Slate. If you want to check out some other interesting videos, you can click there to see my Crash Bandicoot The Wrath of Cortex beta video. Or if you're a big Crash Bandicoot schnob like me, you can click there to see my Crash Bandicoot playlist. Thank you all for watching, like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day.